everyone, welcome back to Creatively Crafted Life. This is Melanie, and today I am bringing you a double page scrapbook layout, and I'm calling this Happy Planner or Memory Planning meets Project Life meets traditional layouts. Basically, what happened is last year I tried to do Project Life, and the whole weekly spreads, that kind of thing, and I'm gonna finish it. I will. I'm in about March right now, but I pretty much decided that Project Life isn't for me, mostly because I just really don't think on a day-to-day kind of basis my life changes that much, so it's really hard to come up with things to document. So this is my way of incorporating the everyday into my 12 by 12 album. The other thing is, I've heard about the Happy Planner kind of thing, and or the memory planning, and I really like the idea of that, but I just can't see me keeping up with it. Just not going to happen. And I like the idea of having everything in one album. So this is my attempt. My attempt to merge all three, and my hope is to do this every month. And basically, what I've done is I created a digital calendar in Photoshop Elements, and that's what you see here. So basically all I need to do is pick my photos, slot them in, and it's okay if not every day of the month has a photo, because that gives me an opportunity to use some of my supplies. And on the far right hand side, I intend to do a little write-up about the month in general. And on the left, my plan is to use a photo that I like or a photo that's indicative of the month, and then also include at some point on that side the calendar month. So in this case, this is going back to January. So I printed this out at home. I do have a wide format printer, and when I trimmed it down, I goofed a little bit, and so that's why you saw me add that little black strip at the bottom. That was just to bring it to the full 12 by 12. I am using this collection from Coco Vanilla Studios. I believe it's called More Than Words. It is absolutely beautiful. I just love everything about this kit. And I had to get, I think, just about every single piece. Now, this can be a little bit difficult to find. It's an Australian company that puts this together, and I believe there's only a few shops in the US maybe that carry it. So I did find one. I can't remember what it's called. My sweet little scrapbook store or sweet something like that. Anyways, if I can remember, I will put it in the description below. So what you saw me there was just kind of familiarizing myself with the collection, and I picked out this 12 by 12 paper that had these painted stripes. Excuse me. And what I thought I would do is add that as background paper on the left hand side there under the photo that I took of the leaves. Now this is January. I do live in Southern California, and I do find it kind of interesting that the leaves here do drop on the ground. They do fall. It's just not in fall, it's in January, in the middle of winter. And so that's what you see there. So included in the collection were those word chipboards, and I thought I would put in Hello January because it's the start of the new year. So welcome to 2018. And I also am using these pink alphabet stickers. I believe these are from Studio Calico, I think. Don't quote me on that. And then I have some leftover Felicity Jane. I don't know what you want. These are like foam. They're very, very, very thin foam alphabets. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to use up the numbers because I don't use them very often. So as always, I am using the wax paper just to hold my titles so that I can temporarily place it there while I figure out exactly what I want. So at this point, on the left-hand side, I'm not really liking the way the paper cuts off, the pattern paper cuts off with the words. It's irritating me a little bit. So I'm not sure what I want to do there. So I've moved over to trying to fill in the bottom part of the right-hand side, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to use some of the ephemera And I do have the ephemera pack. I also have, there's a vellum pack, which I'm going to pull in later. And all I'm doing really is looking for bits and pieces that I think I can use to fill in some of the empty squares. And it's really no rhyme or reason at this point. It's just me playing around with what I think might work. So it's just to get a feel of what's in the collection and what I can make. I'm pretty sure I'm going to use a lot of florals. So you will see me pull out a lot of those. And so now I'm still thinking about it and realizing, yep, I don't like that piece of cardstock the way it is. So I had this brilliant idea of how about I trim these out so that they look more like individual paint strips instead of just this rectangular piece of cardstock. And so I do trim this out. The problem is I couldn't make the ends look right. They definitely look like I trimmed them out. So then I decided, well, I didn't like that, so I'm going to use what's left. And that's what you see here is the stuff that I didn't trim out. And all I'm doing is just making it a little bit smaller. And I do like the way that this works. Basically, because it's a smaller width, it doesn't span the entire area there on the left-hand side. And when I add the title, it spans the same distance, so you don't really see how that paper cuts off, and I much prefer that. So I just placed the thicker word hello down, and now I'm just adding those foam numbers, and I really like the way that nestles in the little gap there between the H and the L. Whenever possible, I do like to try and make everything look like it was intended or designed that way on purpose. So that's what you see me doing there. And I'm using my tweezers to lay down the pink letters for the word January, and I'm also using my T-square ruler to help me align that. Love that T-square ruler. Very good investment. I think it's only a couple bucks, $2 or $3. So if you don't have one, I highly recommend getting something like that. So now I'm looking at the empty squares, and they're looking very white. So the collection is quite soft. It's you know, pastel, and it has a lot of white space in it as well. And so what I thought I would do is take some of this scraps from one of the papers and just add them behind. It's got like a speckled dot, I guess you could call it, and that just helps fill in some of the white space. So I like that. And I found a tab to tuck behind the leaf print. And this is where I decided that if I'm going to be affixing these to white paper, why not use the vellum pieces? Because of course vellum can be a little bit tricky. If you think about it, if you put a vellum piece on a darker cardstock, it's going to look quite a bit darker. So if I'm using white background, why not make the use of it, right? So that's why I'm going through the vellum pack here and just picking out different pieces and seeing what I like or what I can affix where. There's a lot of playing around with this layout. So the photos were pretty easy to slot in because all I did was just find a photo for the day and put it in there. And every now and then, like under Thursday at the top, I spanned 2 blocks with it. I mean, the photo was only really taken on one day, but I think it looks okay spanning the 2, and it's just a generic photo of some palm trees that are in the park across the street. So why not, you know, why not fill a block that way as opposed to trying to shrink it down to a 2-inch piece. Again, we're just affixing things while I'm still thinking about what I'm going to do with these other squares. The other thing I've decided to do to try and use up some of my alpha numbers and stuff is add the numbers from the month onto the layout as well. But I'm not putting the numbers in every single box. I'm going to just scatter them. I can't even speak. I'm going to scatter them sporadically across the layout, and that way you kind of know when it is. But I don't think it's really necessary to have every single block numbered, right? Because you can figure it out. There's usually 30 or 31 days in a month. And if I give you 5 or 6 numbers, you're going to figure out what's what, right? So that's my thought process there. And this is going to be a great way to help me use up some of these numbers that I have. I feel guilty I feel guilty getting rid of thickers if they still have like all the numbers on them, even though I don't use numbers that often. So again, this is a win-win for me. Some of the photos on here, like the one that I was just working on there, is a picture of the solar eclipse that happened. And it was a pretty big deal, you know, across, I think it was across all of the US that it was, you know, it had occurred at various times. And we had gone out during the day and we had, you know, looked at it through our little special visors and stuff, and it was really cool, but I could not get a good picture at all. So I just went online and downloaded a photo off there and printed it so that I can remember exactly what happened. Now, as far as fixing the vellum onto the layout, I'm just using a glue pen and just adding glue wherever the printed area is. So, you know, even though you can still see through, because it's kind of got like a watercolor look, you can't see the adhesive at all by doing that. So that's a pretty good solution in this case. The other thing I want to try and do with these layouts is sometimes, you know, in ephemera packs and stuff, there's pieces that you go like, when am I ever going to use this, right? In the case of that silhouette of a head, I'm like, I'm never going to use that for anything. I can't even think of when I'm going to use it. So it makes a great filler in one of the blocks where I don't have a photo. So that's the other thing I'm going to hopefully try and use. So like I said, there's a lot of white in the ephemera, and that was a case where there was a lot of white. And so just to add a little bit of definition from that to the back drop, I just outlined it, and I'm quite happy with that. You see me flip-flopping back and forth a lot, and that's just because I try not to think about things too much, and as stuff works, I just put it down, and if something's giving me a problem, I will move on and try something else, and hopefully, you know, by giving it a little bit of breathing space, I will be able to come up with something that will work. Now this, I'm very proud of myself. I have a hard time using frames. I don't know why, but I struggle with them. And so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to define a space here under the highlight section and use 2 frames. Yes, I use 2 frames to basically be the grounding spot for some of the floral elements that I'm going to layer on top of here. And I'm really happy with how this turned out. And like I said, I got to use 2 frames, so how cool is that? I'm also trying to add some dimension on these pages by adding some foam dots behind certain elements, but I'm not trying to go super crazy with it either. I'm okay if as a whole the layout's a little bit flatter than, say, my normal 12 by 12 scrapbook pages. So I'm quite happy with that. Now, I did mention when I was picking photos that I just basically picked a photo from the day of the week. I did cheat a little bit because I take a lot of floral photos, or photos of flowers or trees, etc., on my daily walks. And so I felt perfectly justified to swapping those out wherever they needed to go in order to fill the gaps a little bit if I thought, you know, it needed it. So I did have a little bit of license there as far as what day was what. We're just trimming off the excess, and I'm really liking the way that is starting to work out. Here's a little butterfly we're going to add on. This collection is so pretty. I have a lot though, so you'll probably be seeing more of it in the next little while as I do more pages. So on the chipboard sticker sheet, there were these black hearts, and because I have such a large black or darker element on the left hand side. I thought I would try and scatter those throughout the layout a little bit more to balance it out. I mean, I do have the black from the lettering on the right hand side for the highlights, but I thought it would be a good idea to kind of balance it a little bit more with those chipboard pieces. Plus it's a similar texture, so just spread it out a little bit more. I was bound and determined to get that blue feather on. At first I had it on the right hand side. I didn't like that, and I'm quite happy with how it turned out on the left. The way it curves almost matches the curve of the H, which I think is very pretty. So they also have in this collection these flat stickers that have some words or sentiments on them. I guess they're probably more word stickers, and so I'm just using that to add into some of these blocks. And as you can see there, I spanned 2 of the blocks, and I'm okay with that. I don't think you need to stay confined within within the 2-inch square if I can get around it. I still think there's a little bit more contrast needed, and so that's why you see me outlining the frames, just to give it a little bit more of a pop and make that stand out. You'll see that I'm doing that here with this circle, just outlining it. I don't know about you guys, I usually freehand my lining, like if I outline the edge of a page or whatever, I usually try that. But circles give me problems. So it looks like I'm about done, and I'm just going to leave you here with a few close-ups of the layout. I hope you enjoyed, and if you do something similar, let me know below, or if you just do memory planning, let me know. And until next time, happy crafting.